Morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 30. Today, sexual conversations are spiritual conversations, at least as far as Jesus goes. We're in John chapter 4, the woman at the well, and we're on the theme of water. And we've kind of learned that living water isn't a liquid, it's the Lord. It's a personal relationship with Him. Living water isn't from a hole in the ground, it's from heaven. And living water isn't temporary, it's timeless. And we'll talk lots about that today. So living water isn't to be drawn, it's to be discovered. So listen. John chapter 4, verse 13. Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water. So the great thing about this is we're going to talk about desire. Who wouldn't want eternal life? Who wouldn't want eternal life that has roots in the here and the now? So she is demonstrating, yeah, I want this. So start here. Let's just start here with us. Do you want eternal life? Do you want life with God? Then, do you want to go to heaven? Because paradise is where the presence of Jesus is. That's exactly what makes it paradise. So life with Him there starts with life with Him here. So deciding for then must be a decision now, because as far as we know, there's no deciding later. Hebrews 9:27 says, and just as it is appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment. There's nothing in between. So there's no reincarnation, no second life, no intervening opportunity for a change of status. The world of second chances is here, not there. Let me say that again. The world of second chances is here, not there. All right, let me continue with the verse, 4:16. Jesus said to her, Go and call your husband and come back here. The woman answered him, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, You're right in saying, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true. The woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. So she has this sexually transparent history in the eyes of Jesus and a sexually transparent present. And she understands this and says, I see a prophet here. I see spiritual insight, and how unsettling that must be. We talked about that yesterday. So the whole idea is, I just want to be seen. Well, what if God went on with, what if God saw your zipper and the thoughts of the zipper inside your head and seeing your sexual agency and your sexual activity? And here's the question. If Jesus saw your zipper and reported on it, what would He say? So He uses this divine knowledge of her zipper to open up the spiritual conversation. So she responds, I see you're a prophet. So they, a second ago, were in a sexual conversation, and now they've been turboed into a spiritual conversation. All right, verse 20. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem is the place where we ought to worship. So she's right about that we should be seeking the correct location of worship. And she's agreeing that worship should be done and agreeing that worship is due. So good for her. So the point is, though, that we need to have the right object and the right location and the right method of worship. So they're going to disagree, and conveniently here she kind of leaves off the history that's in 2 Kings chapter 17, where they don't fear the Lord, they don't follow the statutes, they make gods of their own, and they even burn their own children in the fire. So this is a bad, and she kind of we're just going to gloss over all the distinctive, real nasty parts. I think Jesus' point says, you've made a mess of this. Let me teach you. Verse 21. Jesus said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, the Jews, for salvation is from the Jews. And this is so offensive. The truths are so offensive. What Jesus is saying here is, you are wrong about this. You don't know about this. So flash to now. We live in this hour. We don't have to go anywhere to worship. There's a mountain that we worship on, and that's inside our hearts. You must worship here. You don't need to go any mountain. The mountain is enough right in here. So we have now the right place of worship, the right God, and we must worship the right and known God. So we've got to get this worship thing right. And he's living and giving this light to her to help her to see it. He's authenticated himself by insight into her sexual history. And to her credit, he's reminded here of her spiritual thirst and her desire to worship correctly, at least to discuss it. So thirst and desire isn't enough. You must get the object right. So then Jesus just drops these truth bombs is you will worship in accordance to knowledge and revelation of himself. So you got to have the right God and the right place. And then he just says, salvation is from the Jews. It's not from anybody else. There's no other way to heaven. So not the Gentiles, not the Samaritans, not the Assyrians. So all of our world history flows through the Jews. There's thousands of years of history, and in my Bible, there's about 1,000 pages. So she is kind of like outside the revelation of God, and she's coming to the point where she's saying, "Oops, me and my people, and me specifically, have been mis-worshiping." She is beginning to say, through this revelation of having this sexual conversation, which is now turned into a spiritual conversation, she's beginning to say, and is going to say at the end of this, the 6 hardest words in the English language, in my humble opinion, which are, "I could be wrong about this." Thanks for listening.